Good morning and welcome to our graduation and OPT virtual workshop. We'll be joined today by two of IAU's team members presenting all of the important dates, deadlines, and how to apply for all the steps from petitioning for graduation through your OPT approval. First up will be Bibiana from our Office of the Registrar. She'll be covering the graduation portion of the workshop. And secondly, we'll have Hillary from our Department of Career Services presenting all you need to know about the OPT process, which will help you get that work authorization after you complete your program. In addition to their presentations, they will be answering your questions from the chat. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat on the right side of your screen. We'll take a look at them after each speaker and then again at the conclusion of the workshop. Also, keep an eye on the chat for important links. We'll be adding URLs that are mentioned by our staff when answering your questions. Last thing, before we get to the questions, if you get distracted and you miss something or you forget something that was said in this workshop, don't worry. We'll be emailing everyone in attendance a recording of the whole thing. So look out for that email in the next day or two. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First up, we'll have Bibiana from our Office of the Registrar. Good morning, Bibi.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Take it away.
All right, thank you. Hello, guys. My name is Bibiana. I work at the Office of the Registrar as a student coordinating Roman. So we are here to present the graduation and OPT workshop. As Jordan explained, the presentation will have two portions. The first one will cover the graduation and the second one will cover the OPT. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen with you guys so we can start the presentation. Okay, I believe you guys can see my screen right now. Let me put in a presentation mode. Okay, here we go. So before we start, I would like to share some important contact information with you guys that might be helpful during both processes. The first one is if you have any questions about your academic planning, you can email ssp@iula.edu. If you have questions about graduation, you can send an email to red@iula.edu. If you have questions about optional practical training OPT, you can submit the Career Service Inquiry form. And lastly, if you have questions about the graduation photos, you can send an email to ssp@iula.edu. So let's move forward to our table of content. During the graduation portion of the presentation, I will be talking about the graduation requirements. We will be providing you guys some tools to help you stay on track to graduate. We will be explaining how to petition to graduate. We will show the list of fees involving graduation. We will show you the deadlines involving graduation. After, we will be summarizing all the process in a brief timeline to help you guys understand. And then right after, we will be providing some examples on how you guys can anticipate your graduation date based on your Form I-20. And then last, we will provide more information about the graduation photos. Okay? So let's start. I would like to start with a caution, okay? It's very important that you guys keep in mind that the graduation is not automatic in IU. You must petition for graduation. We will be showing you guys how to petition later on in the presentation. And it's important that you know your program and the date, okay? All these three things will help you stay on track to graduate. Let's start with the graduation requirements, okay? The first one is program completion, right? You have to successfully complete all required courses for your program. The second graduation requirement is financial balance. That means that you should be making payments on time. Your financial balance should be in a good standing, okay? The third one is maintenance of status. F1 students must be in active status, okay, and abiding to all F1 regulations, maintaining full-time course of study. The fourth graduation requirement is the cumulative grade point average, well known as a CGPA. We do require a minimum per level of education, okay? The graduate level, which includes GBA and MBA, we require a minimum of a 3.0. For undergraduate level, which includes ASCBA and BBA, we do require a 2.0, all right? And then the last, the mandatory internship. All students must successfully complete the minimum of 2 internships, okay, in order to graduate. If you guys have any questions, feel free to share in the chat and we will be addressing later. So let's move to the next slide. Here, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the CGPA, which is the Cumulative Grade Point Average. This is a scale used by most colleges and universities in the US. Of course, you do not have to calculate yours. If you log into your MyAU account, write an academic history on the top, you will have your CGPA, okay? So let's move forward. Okay, right now we will provide some tools that may help you guys stay on track to graduate, okay? The first one is your program completion plan, well known as PCP. This document lists all the required courses for your program. As well, it reflects any transfer credit awarded to you at the time of admissions, okay? So that's a good document so you can check, cross-check like the classes that you have already completed. That way you will know how many classes you have left and if your graduation is approaching. The second one is our academic history. As I said, in your MyAU account, you can not only check your CGPA, but also your academic history, okay? So you can check all the classes that you have completed, if you have to retake any classes because you failed prior. So that's a good tool for you to stay on track to graduate. And last, it is our Office of Student Support. Okay, you can reach out to them at ssp@iula.edu. Okay, if you have any questions about your academic planning or your expected graduation date. It's very important to note that students entering the final term are required to meet with one of the student support staff via phone or video conference, okay? And then you will be completing your final term registration. And you need to make an appointment for that. If you are not sure if you are entering your final term, send an email to them as well, and then they will be happy to help you, all right? So let's move forward. Here I will be providing like some tips to help you guys stay on track to graduate, and then when is the time, right, that you should be petitioning to graduate. So typically is one term for the graduation date, or within 4 months of your program end date on your Form I-20. Whenever you have 12 or less units remaining to complete your program, that means is probably the time to petition to graduate. When your financial balance is in a good standing, and when your CGPA is at or above the minimum requirement. Okay, those 4 tips are very useful. Let's move forward. Here is the petition. As I said, the graduation at IU is not automatic, right? So you have to petition to graduate. When I say petition, that means that you have to submit an online form that is available in our website. I will be showing you here where it is available. Here is our website, iula.edu. Okay, if you go to the downloads tab, you will have a portion dedicated to graduation petition. Each program has its own graduation petition form. That means you should be submitting this form, okay? And then once you complete this form, that means you petition to graduate. Going back to the slides, give me a second. Okay. So once you submit the form, okay, it's very important that you submit the form before the graduation petition deadline. I will be showing you guys the deadlines later, but beforehand, keep in mind that every graduation date has its own graduation petition deadline. Okay, if you petition before the deadline, all you have to pay is $25 graduation fee. All right, but if for any reason you submit after the deadline, there is a late fee of $25. Okay, so once you guys submit the form and make the applicable payment, that means you petition to graduate. Okay, then the office of the registrar will conduct an evaluation of your graduation eligibility. We will make sure all the minimum requirements to graduate are satisfied. Okay, and if everything is good to go, all the minimum requirements are met, you will be receiving a notice of graduation eligibility letter from the office of the registrar. Okay, once you receive the notice of eligibility letter, that means you are eligible to start applying for OPT with our career service department. Okay, now if at that time you submit the graduation petition and the office of the registrar conducts the evaluation, one or more than one of the minimum requirements are not met, you will receive a notice of graduation ineligibility, okay, stating the reason why you were not approved or conditionally approved to graduate on your expected graduation date. Okay, in that case, if you receive a notice of graduation ineligibility, that means you will need to resubmit the graduation petition form, but with no additional fees. Okay, so let's move forward. Here we have the list of fees, okay? As I said, there is the graduation fee of $25 applicable to all students if you submit the graduation petition by the deadline. If for any reason you miss the deadline, there is no problem, but at this time you will be charged an additional $25 late graduation petition fee. Okay, and if the petition is denied, if you receive the notice of ineligibility, you do not have to pay again, but you need to submit the form again. All right, let's move forward. Here is our academic calendar for 2021. I highlighted where in the calendar you can find the graduation petition deadline for each session. Okay, here is too small, so I kind of summarize all the dates related to graduation from our calendar. So right now, we already passed the graduation deadline for those expected to graduate in fall session 2, 2021. Okay, graduation date, January 15, 2022. If you have not petitioned yet, you still have time, but at this time, you will be charged $25 late fee as well. Okay, so you will be paying a total of $50. So moving forward, here we have our timeline. As I said, this timeline is intended to kind of like help understand all the process, okay, in an easy way. So the petition typically starts once your registration for the term opens. So for example, for spring 2022, for graduate level, the petition will open, okay, in November 15. For undergraduate level, it will open on November 29. This is the same day as your registration opens, okay? So that's the soonest that you can submit your graduation petition. Then your last session is going to start. When your last session starts, that means is your graduation petition deadline, okay? The graduation petition deadline falls always on the first day of your last session, all right? If you submit the petition by the first day of your last session, that means you just have to pay $25. Now, if you miss the deadline, that's okay. You will still have 8 weeks, the duration of your last session, to submit the petition, but at this time, you will be paying the graduation fee plus the late graduation fee, okay? A total of $50. Then the 8 weeks will end, and then your last session will be finalized. Your final grades will be received and inputted in your MyAU account, okay? Once your final grades are inputted in your MyAU account, the Office of the Registrar will conduct a final evaluation of your graduation eligibility to ensure all graduation requirements are satisfied. If everything is good to go, we will award the degree and we will release your graduation package, all right? And then last, if you are interested in the graduation photos, that's the best time to reach out to our student service team. If you have any questions, please feel free to share in this chat. Okay, so here I'm gonna provide like some examples on how based on your Form I-20, okay, and on the program end date on your Form I-20, you can anticipate when is your graduation date. So here we have an example of a student enrolled in the MBA program, which the standard completion time is 2 years. This student start date was in September 2, 2019, and his end date is September 2, 2021. So based on the table below, which all the dates are from our calendar, we can anticipate that the graduation date for this student is September 15, 2021. His last session will be summer session 2, and the petition deadline for this student will be June 28, 2021. Our second example is a student enrolled in the SBA program, which is the standard completion time is 2.5 years, okay? The start date for this student is March 4, 2019. The end date, September 4, 2021. So based on the table below with our calendar dates, we can anticipate that the graduation date for this student is also September 15, 2021. His last session will be summer session 2, and the petition deadline will be June 28, 2021 for this student, okay? And then last, we have a student enrolled in the BBA program, which the standard completion time is 5 years. This student start date is October 24, 2016, and the end date is October 24, 2021. So based on the table below, we can anticipate that the graduation date for this student is November 15, 2021. His last session will be fall session 1, and the petition deadline for this student will be August 30, 2021. Okay? Moving forward, we have our graduation package. So the graduation fee that you guys are required to pay not only covers the evaluation of your graduation eligibility, but also when the time comes and you graduate, it covers the graduation package. Okay, the graduation package includes the diploma cover, the diploma, the statement of completion, and your original transcript. Typically, graduation packages are released within 1 month from the graduation date. Okay, you will receive an email from the office of the registrar informing you that the graduation package is ready to pick up at the front desk. All right. And last, more information about the photos. Okay, IU does offer graduation photos. So the graduation portrait package includes one printed photo, 8x10, all electronic copies of the photos taken. When you go to take pictures, we provide the cap and the gown, okay? And it is a $25 fee. If you want to know more information about the graduation photos, you can email ssv@iula.edu. Jordan also can help us. I'm not sure if he knows, but because of the pandemic, we stopped the service, but not
Yes.
sure if we are back.
We have resumed that service. So feel free
Perfect.
to email us.
Perfect. So you just have to make an appointment, send an email to them, and then you can schedule a time to take your picture. Okay?
Correct.
So
Okay.
with that, I conclude my part of the presentation. I hope it was helpful. And if you have any questions, you can share with us in the chat.
Yes. Thank you very much, BB. And like she said, feel free to ask questions in the chat. I don't see any yet, but I will keep an eye on it. Also, keep an eye on the chat yourself because I have placed a lot of links in there that BB mentioned. So if you haven't seen it yet, check that out. Also, our social media accounts are there. Please follow us on social media to hear any important updates about these deadlines that they're discussing. Okay. Thank you, Bibiana. And again, I'll keep an eye on the chat for questions about graduation. But now we will move on to the second portion of the workshop, which will be OPT and the deadlines and how to apply and all of that information. So for that portion, we'll have Hillary from our Department of Career Services. Good morning, Hillary, and thank you for joining us.
Awesome.
And,
good morning, everyone.
All right, go ahead, take it away, Hill, and everybody, make sure you keep an eye on the chat for those links that she mentioned.
All right, hi everyone. So right now I am going to be presenting about OPT. So we can go on. This is a couple of things that I'm going to be talking over. So for example, what is OPT? The differences between CPT and OPT, how to be eligible for OPT, as well as the documents that you'll need to apply. A very general timeline of OPT, what happens if you receive a request for evidence, and then obligations during and after OPT. All right, so let's just get started. So what is OPT? So OPT is basically a temporary work authorization that, that F1 students can participate in that is a maximum of 12 months. And students can have this once per higher educational level. Moving on, the differences between CPT and OPT. So some of you may have already participated in CPT, so you know what that is. So I'll just give you a general, some general information about what that is. So for CPT, some of you may know that for undergraduates, you start CPT after 1 academic year. For graduates, you could start it immediately after your program starts. Sorry, immediately when your program starts. It's been a while since I've presented. Sorry about that. OPT is different because it starts after the completion of your program at IAU. For CPT, you may remember that you apply for it through a DSO. So you would submit your documents to us, we'd check them, and then we'd input that information onto CVIS. That is different for OPT. So we help you out with the application process. However, your application will go to USCIS, and they will be the ones to approve your application. For CPT, you must be going to school. It is tied to your curriculum, so then you know that if you did participate in CPT, you were taking the internship courses and got credit for it. For OPT, you are already graduated, so you do not have to take any classes, and it is not exactly tied to your curriculum. And then last, for CPT, your work authorization was in the form of a CPT I-20. That is different for OPT. You will be receiving something called an EAD card. Okay, so we are going to move on. So how to be eligible for OPT? The first thing is that you cannot exceed CPT. So something that you may all know is that we did change our CPT policies. And so students can only have 2 sessions worth of CPT during their program here. So you will not be exceeding any type of CPT. Moving on, another way to be eligible for OPT is that you are eligible for graduation. So as Bibi mentioned, graduation is not automatic. She did already go through the different things that you have to do in order to reach graduation. So I'll just go through them really quickly again. You have to complete all of your required courses. You have to also have a minimum 2.0 CGPA for undergraduate students and then a 3.0 for graduate students. All students must also complete two internships, as well as maintain their status, their F1 status. And then the last few is that you must have you must be in good standing for your financial balance, and then also petition for graduation. Okay, so after that is done, you are then able to apply for OPT. So we're just going to go over some documents that you'll need in order to apply for OPT. The first one is going to be a notice of graduation of eligibility. So that's a document, again, that comes from the Office of Registrar after you petition and are approved for graduation. So just send that to the Career Services team. The next thing is going to be an application for OPT. It's going to be a 3-page document that is an application from IAU that will ask you information that we will need for your OPT application. Next is going to be a copy of your passport, and this cannot be expired, as well as a copy of your visa and a copy of your I-94. And then last on this page is 2 passport photo headshots that are 2 by 2 inches. And these must be professionally printed on a white background, so like passport photos are on a white background, 2 by 2 inches. Just make sure that you watch out for like the white backgrounds and everything like that, because sometimes if these aren't met, like if it's like not 2 inches or anything like that, then your application can be sent back to you and it will delay the process. Other documents that you will need is a copy of a form I-797 notice of action. And this is for students, let's say that if you didn't come into the US as an F1 student, let's say that you came as a B1, B2 visitor, and then you changed your status, then you'll have a notice that shows that your F1's visa was approved. So just make sure you provide a copy of that. Next is a copy of a form I-797 or an EAD card. And this is for any students who previously applied for OPT. So if you have any of those, just make sure that you also include those documents. And then last is going to be a copy of your form I-20s for CPT from any non-IAU programs. So if you've ever participated in CPT outside of IAU, just make sure that we have copies of your I-20s that show your CPT as well. And then last are going to be the processing fees. So for the first fee is going to be for Department of Homeland Security, and it's going to be for $410. That could be either made by check or also by credit card. So that's going to be the form G1450 that you can fill out online, and then you could input your credit card information. And then last is going to be the IAU OPT processing fee for $150, and that could be made payable online on our website. Okay, so moving on. So this is a very general timeline about how to apply for OPT. And so some things to just really keep out for is right here. Let's say that this is your graduation date. The earliest time to apply is going to be 90 days before that date. Okay, so just make sure that you keep an eye on that. After your graduation date, typically students have a 60-day grace period, but then if they are applying for OPT, then you're either going to be waiting during the 60-day grace period for your approval, or if you applied really early on, then you may be starting your OPT already. And then from that start date, you have a maximum of 12 months of OPT. And I do say a maximum of 12 months because sometimes students can have less than 12 months. Let's say that students apply a lot later than the 90-day window right here, then that may delay your process. And instead of having, let's say 12 months, you might have 10, 11, anything less than that. So just keep an eye out, or keep your, just understand like the idea of like this 90-day window and how early to apply. After your 12 months of OPT, you then have another 60-day grace period. And during this time, you can kind of decide what you want to do, whether it's going to be applying for another program at IAU or going to a different university or even going home, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right. So after you submit your application, some students may receive something called a request for evidence. You do not have to be worried about it. This is not a rejection or anything like that. This is basically a document that's asking for more information from the student in order to help them out with their application process. So if you do receive this, then go ahead and email us at rfe@iaula.edu. Wait, sorry. Jordan, can you link them for that email address? It's going to be rfe@iaula.edu.
Yes, I'll link it.
Okay, awesome. And that is going to be for $250. One thing to really keep in mind is that a lot of RFEs do ask for a lot of documentation, and there are some things that we no longer have records for. So this is why you have to make sure that you're mindful about saving a lot of the documents that IAU gives to you either through email or physically or anything like that, like through physical mail or anything like that. So make sure that you're saving all of your syllabi, all of your class assignments, any of your registration form emails from the Office of Student Support. Make sure that you're also saving any and all registration and CPT I-20s, as well as that you're PDFing any of your DQs. And again, if you do have an RFE, just make sure you email that email address that is in the bottom right there, which is rfe@iaula.edu. Okay, moving on. Okay, so at this point, you are now approved for your OPT and you will receive something called an EAD card, as well as the Form I-797 Notice of Approval. So there are a couple of obligations while you are on OPT. Some of these obligations are that students are not typically recommended to leave the US unless you do gain authorization from your employer, as well as get written documents to support your reentry. So just again, make sure that you have documentation from your employer that says that you are working for them, you are going to come back on this and on so and so date, and that you have, for example, your OPT I-20, your EAD card, and anything else that would show that you are working for OPT. Another thing is that you must be working while you're on OPT. You must be working for at least 9 of the 12 months. You can have 3 months of unemployment, and that can be, for example, if you leave a job or if you're still searching when your OPT is still approved, you do have 3 months to be unemployed. Okay. Next is that you do have another obligation, and that is to basically let us know what your employment information is. So from your OPT start date, you have 90 days from that date in order to provide us with your employment information. And we will be asking for 3 things. One of them is going to be a job placement survey. Another one is going to be an OPT job offer letter. And then last is going to be a copy of your EAD or your I-797 notice of approval. And then last thing to note is that if you have any changes about your employment, let's say that you're leaving one place and you're joining another, just make sure that you keep us in the loop so then we can then update your CVIS record. All right. And then life after OPT. So after your OPT is done, you basically have another 60-day grace period that will allow you the time to kind of figure out what you want to do after your OPT. So here are the options that you have. One thing is to transfer to another school. Let's say that there's another program that you're interested in and you want to leave IAU, then we can help you with that process by transferring your records. So just make sure that you know that's an option. Another option is to apply for a different program with IAU. Let's say that you joined our bachelor's program and you're really interested in still sticking with us and you want to join our master's program, then that's also something that you can do. Next is also to apply for a different non-immigrant visa. So some students already start this application process if, let's say that during OPT, they find an employer that they work well with and their employer is willing to sponsor them, then that's something that they start during their application, during their OPT. Just keep in mind that if you're still applying for, if your non-immigrant visa is still pending after your OPT, then you still have to be maintaining your current F1 status. And by doing that, you will either be doing one of the first two options, which is either to transfer to another school or to apply for a different program at IAU. And then last, let's say that you gained all the experience that you wanted here at the US. The last option is to then return to your home country. And then, okay, so that does conclude my presentation. If you have any questions about CPT or OPT, or if there's anything that was unclear, then you can feel free to send a career services inquiry form, and you could find this in our website on the contact page, and it's going to have the link to the form there. And then I think that is it. So we do have our Q&A. If you have any questions for me and Bibiana, we'll stick around for the next few minutes. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Hillary. And that career service inquiry form that Hillary mentioned at the end of her presentation is also in the chat. And also, speaking of the chat, Hillary, please stick around. We have a couple questions about OPT. So the first one says, if I have worked for a few months at one company, is it possible to change the company later if we're not a match?
Yes, so during OPT, as I mentioned in one of my last slides, if you do want to leave your current OPT employer and you found new employment, just keep us in the loop. Just make sure that you let us know what your end date is with your previous OPT employer, and then you submit new documents so then we could update that on CVIS for you.
All right, and a follow-up question is it possible to work with two companies at the same time on OPT, or just only one company?
Yes, students can work for more than one company at the same time, and that's kind of like one of the biggest differences from CPT. So yeah, students can work for more than one at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. And the last question so far, oh, it looks like we just got another one, but let me ask this one first. This person says, I have second thoughts about applying for OPT because of the recertification issues. So should I still pursue it, or would I have to transfer to another school? I'm graduating this January 15th, 2022.
Okay, so I will answer this question because it is very specific to OPT, but any other recertification questions, I will not be able to answer here. But since this does apply to OPT, I would think that you would still be able to apply. We are still taking applications right now. Especially, and we also have some students who are, for example, graduating January 15, 2022 as well, and they are applying. There was a moment where we weren't taking any applications just because, again, we didn't want to make any changes onto anybody's CVIS record because we just got that recertification notice. But now we're kind of moving along with the process of trying to improve our policies. And so we are making these changes, these edits again. And then we are also taking, for example, CPT, OPT applications. So if you do feel more comfortable after hearing that, then we do suggest for you to apply if you want to. But again, it's really up to the student. If you don't want to, then you have to do what's best for you.
Okay, thank you, Hillary. The next question, it says, can I wait for OPT approval while I'm home in my home country? I will graduate on January 15th, but I'm planning on spending the holidays in my home country until I get the OPT approval.
That is a very good question, and I feel like I should have mentioned that earlier on. I'm sorry if I didn't. So when students' OPTs are still pending, we do not suggest that students leave the country, only because sometimes if you were to come back, let's say that you were going to your home country and you come back and you're back here in the US, basically CBP will look and see that your OPT was not approved and it's still pending, and they're going to kind of question, like, you're already done with your program, how come you left? So we do suggest that if your OPT is still pending, you do stay here in the United States. If you do want to travel, then you would probably do that when your OPT is already approved, and when you have an employer who is able to basically provide you with documents saying that you are employed with them.
All right, thank you, Hillary. Bibiana, it looks like we have a question related to the graduation timeline. It says, I started IAU in January of 2021, and it's too early yet. The first one is, can I ask when my graduation will be? And just to answer that real quick, if you want to know when your graduation will be, specifically to your program, you can email SSP, I believe, at iaula.edu. I'm putting that in the chat right now. They will be able to track your academic progress and let you know when your graduation date should be. The second part of your question is, when exactly should I let you know that I will be graduating soon? So, yeah, I think that's part of the graduation petition process, right, Bibi?
Yes, exactly. As Jordan said, your student support advisor will be the one to tell you when is your expected graduation date. If you just started Taha, I'm not sure which is your program, but our shortest program is the MBA. So it takes 2 years, right? So let's assume it's like 2 years. So you will be graduating in January 2023. Like we can anticipate that, right? Based on your program and the date and then the duration of our programs. However, you should check with your student support advisor. He will be the one to tell you when is your expected graduation date. As well, he will be the one to tell you when is the best time to petition to graduate. In my presentation, I provided like some tips, like when that can raise the flag, when is the time to petition to graduate. But again, your student support will be the one to tell you when you should petition and when is the deadline and everything else that you should know. Okay. And as I said, once you approach your final term, you are required to do a final term registration. During this appointment, the student support advisor, they will go over all the requirements to graduate and they will make sure you are on track to graduate, and then they will tell you what to do, if that makes sense.
All right. Thank you, Bibi.
You're welcome.
I don't see any other questions in the chat. If anyone would like to open up their mic, we'll give you a moment to do that if you just want to ask a question with your voice. I'm going to post our social media accounts one more time in the chat for anyone who would like to go ahead and follow us. Again, we will have information about policy changes and important dates or events like these virtual workshops that we do on social media. All right. I guess if no one has any further questions, we can wrap it up. Thank you again, Hillary and Bibiana, for your presentations. And thank you, everybody who came, for your questions and for attending. I see Gabriel's asking, there's no further updates on recertification. There are no further updates from us in this workshop, but just keep an eye out for any updates in your email. We don't have any updates as of right now. Thank you, Gabriel, and thank you, everybody, for your questions again, and have a great day, and look out for the recording of this presentation in your email in the next couple of days. It'll be a YouTube link. All right, everybody, have a good one. See you next time.
Thank you.